So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about Gravity is Your Friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have Escapes Engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's Your Friend, sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time, and is really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the Smash the Knee Folding Pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJFanatics.com.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live.
Here we go.
Is this safe to say this was one of the best conversations, if not the best conversation of the year?
Yeah, of the year. Yeah, I think so. I think it might be one of the 2.5 years we've been doing this. It's up there, man. It was a great one. Eliot Marshall, just, you'll see that in the title. But
what's your thoughts?
It was a very honest, candid conversation, which I love. I think when we talk strict jiu-jitsu and
what was the takeaway?
Well, I think really for me it was about how we continue to blow it. We continue to make mistakes, and I think that if you can, for me, the takeaway of the actual conversation was if you can't admit that, you're probably not evolved very much as a person. And I think that it's really great that when somebody who is very successful can say, I make mistakes. These are the things I want to be in my life. And I think I'm good at, but I still make mistakes doing those things. I blow it all the time. I screw up all the time. And rather than just have it as a throwaway moment, it's what can I learn from it? How can I make myself better? I think too many people don't take that time. We talk in these takeaways. I think we talk a lot about like reflection. And I think too many people don't take the time to reflect on their mistakes. They expect people to just let them fall, let the mistake happen, and we move on. Which is great.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Well, it's a great thing to say is we need to move on.
It's not great. It's not great because
it's not great to do.
I don't think I don't think any of it is great.
No.
You can't move on without acknowledging that something is fucked up.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
I just looked it up because I didn't know who said this, but Zig Ziglar said, step 1 of solving a problem is recognizing there is one.
Sure.
And this is so fundamental, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Today, in today's life, today's world, we are all like, I messed up. I'll just stay quiet. I won't acknowledge this. I'll just let it be, and it's going to dissolve itself because nobody's going to talk about it.
Right.
And we just coexist. We freaking just coast through life. We're not learning anything. We are not acknowledging the mistakes that we made. We're not acknowledging, honestly, the successes we are making. Truly, think about this. We are not acknowledging the successes. We celebrate. We throw our arms in the air. We, wave the trophy. Everything is beautiful, but we don't pause. We don't stop for a moment and say, what made this successful? Who helped me being successful? Who helped me or didn't help me? Why did I fail? Why this sucked? Why is this hard? We don't do this.
No, because it's, one of the other things we were going to talk about today was he talked about being a coward. And it's cowardly to not do the work, right? It's coward. And it's even easy to say, oh yeah, there is a problem. Oh yeah, I was wrong. But that's the bare minimum. Now from there, you have to make corrections.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a Lutheran school, and I remember them always talking about, you know, you repent your sins. Well, I find it very easy, or people find it very easy to pray and say you're sorry for all those things you did wrong, and then they go and do them all over again, right? And they always, the one thing I took away that I hold from this school, because there's not a lot, is that repent means you're going to try your best not to do it again. So you can say you're sorry all you want till you're blue in the face, but if you don't try to then correct whatever led you to that point or whatever you did to never do it again, then you're not really putting in the work. You can say you're sorry all you want, but when that person sees you do those things over and over and over again, and every time you say you're sorry, at some point, it's meaningless. That sorry is meaningless. Admitting there's a problem is meaningless. So unless you actually do your best to learn from it, to never let it happen again, and maybe it will, but you now have some tools to make sure it happens less and more infrequently. So I just, admitting there's a problem is easy. Doing everything else is where the real work comes in.
But even admitting the problem, I think for some, I think it's difficult. It's hard. Like I think people are, there is this like negative stigma associated with making a mistake, with failing. Like it is like, and it is not that, forget it for a moment that failing sucks. Like it does. Let's not beat around the bush. Anytime we don't do what we wanted to do, or things don't go according to plan, it sucks. We feel bad. There's anxiety associated with it. Like, it sucks. Life sucks. Nobody said life would be beautiful. Has your parents told you that life will be beautiful? I don't know. Mine didn't. My father kept telling me life is hard. I guess, I don't know. Maybe it was just my dad, but he told me always, put your head down, work hard. It's still going to suck. No matter what you do, it's still going to suck. It's hard.
And I think we're looking at it we're looking at two different things here. And I think, so you're running a business and it loses money, and that's failure and it sucks, and you learn from it and you correct the mistakes and you don't let it happen again. But I'm also talking about on a more personal level, when you fail someone else, you let somebody down on a personal level, where because we talked about, first and foremost, father, right? That failing as a father is much different than failing as a businessman, because all those people can go get another job. All those, failing as a father, you now screwed somebody up who's going to take that and continue doing those things to the next generation, to their kids. I think it has a much bigger impact. And I don't know.
Listen, I'm a father. I'm also a business owner.
Right.
And it's different.
Yes, absolutely different.
But I don't know if they are different levels. Because I'll tell you this, failing as a business owner, impacting not your employee, but also their families, carries completely different weight.
It's very different.
But the point that I'm trying to highlight is the fact that regardless who you're impacting, there is a mistake or failure associated with it. Mm-hmm. Now, making that acknowledgement and trying to correct the problem, trying to figuring out, not try to sweep things under the rug, is critical to what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. Shit happens all the time. We make mistakes all the time. As parents, as business owners, as bosses, as employees, as people, as neighbors, as family, as husbands and wives, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I don't know one person who doesn't. If you think you don't make mistakes, you're full of shit.
That's your biggest fucking mistake.
That's your biggest mistake. You're full of shit. That's all it is, okay? But the point is, we do make mistakes. The next thing you do after that mistake is what matters.
Yes.
It's not that the mistake is the next step after that, immediately after that. How you react to it.
Right.
What's the plan you're going to create?
Yep.
Whether it's your kids and that action could have a long-term consequence throughout their childhood or their life, like, or if you are an employee or employer and you make a mistake. It's two-way street, in my opinion. Because, like, we often look at an employee, the one who needs to make the tough decisions, but often we find ourselves in a spot with an employee, the guy who works, makes a mistake and impacts the whole company, and then other people in the company are impacted too.
Sure.
So, like,
Well,
we all work together. So the way I look at this, we are teams. We have team at home. And we got to work together. We got to make an impact on each other.
and Eliot said he had a team go to the Worlds and nobody came home with a medal. Everybody lost in the first match. High level people making big mistakes. And instead of going back and being like, what the fuck, you guys, he said, what did I do wrong as a coach? What can I do differently? Right. And they go back a year later and 13 of the 15 people medal. He changed his approach. Right. And I think that's what we're talking about here in one way is, okay, something happened, acknowledge it and not necessarily move on, acknowledge it and make sure it doesn't happen again. How? Mm-hmm. And how do I do that in a positive manner for everyone involved?
Yeah.
And I think that's really what, we talk a lot about leadership. I think that's a huge part of leadership is acknowledging that kind of a lot of it rests on your shoulders, and you want people to follow you. You don't want people to obey you. And how do you get them to follow you is by positivity, and results, right?
Nobody wants to hang out with people who are grumpy and mean. I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's why I don't have any friends. But it is any leader, any boss, any employer who doesn't acknowledge that they have the potential or they have made mistakes, that's going to come back to haunt that person.
That's not a leadership.
No. And
Empathy,
they're going to lose their employees. They're going to probably lose a lot of their business.
Wait a minute. Is this some kind of hint?
No, I think you're great. I tell people that all the time. But I used to work in those situations where it's like, you're in a meeting and the whole time you're just looking at the person like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm
laughing because I've been there too.
Or why would I do that for you? Why would I work hard for you?
So do you, let me ask you
because that's what happens is you're doing it for them. You're not doing it for the greater good of a company or the service you provide. I'm not going to work for my boss. I'm going to work for what they provide. When I was in the veterinary field, it was working for what's the best for that animal. When I worked with humans, it was what's the best for that person. And here it's what's the best for what we're trying to develop, not what's the best for pocketbooks. It's hugely important, but what's the best? What are we trying? Because the money comes from, I believe the money comes from the culture. You build the culture. People want to stay. People bring people in.
Right.
You get people off the street. They see what we're doing.
Yeah.
That is why this is a success. The Academy, not the podcast.
Podcast is successful.
So if we
just lost all the thousands of people.
I forgot where I was going, but we've gone on this leadership tangent. If you lead and you don't see the failures in yourself when the people underneath you are failing, it's never going to change.
You mentioned a moment ago, you've been in these positions where you're sitting in that room and you're thinking, what are you talking about? You have no clue. In negative negative environment with perhaps poor leadership, and the leadership is being questioned, have you taken anything positive out of that situation?
Always.
What's that?
You learn what not to do, right? I learned what. So, quick example: wait times are too long, right? People are in one of the jobs I had.
Yeah,
people are waiting too long. You need to work harder. You need to work faster. You need to give me the tools. You need to give them the tools in order to perform their job. Better. Not, we've often talked about work smarter, not harder. Give these people the ability to do their job better, because working harder and faster, that's when mistakes get made. And guess what? That's when people wait even longer. And in the cases of where I used to work, you do something wrong, there's potential for death. And,
I mean, in that field, absolutely. I mean, that's
and that cat might be the only thing that person has. Only thing, right? Or when I'm picking somebody up and putting them in a stair chair, that person is someone's loved one. And if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to and given the tools that I need to do that job properly, is that my fault? No, it's my leader's fault.
It's interesting to hear you say this, because I think we all have these people that we don't necessarily or haven't or didn't necessarily appreciate what they've done and how they've done things, and yet we draw these conclusions what not to do. Like, they've made an impact on us, and the impact itself was not positive, but yet we have positive conclusions what to avoid. I mean, I've said this on the show before, but like, one of my bosses in my previous life is like literally a definition of what I avoid doing. Yeah. Like it is the criteria. And it's sad that somebody makes that impact on you. But at the same time, like I've said this before, I actually appreciate that he came in my life. Well, in that sense, because that really built... Right? That really built a criteria which I try to avoid, because the experience was, it was terrible. It made really impact, and like I remember going home and just being really destroyed about just comments and just things that were said, and all that builds us who we are. Right?
Yeah. If you can learn from it. So you learn from their mistakes, you learn from your mistakes.
So continue making mistakes and continue fixing them, because that's what a life is all about.
That's right.
We out of here?
I'll end it there. Maybe I won't.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.